Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk Transforming Your Energy in 2021. This is the October edition, and it is titled Break. Oh my God, I just forgot the title of the talk. Pursuing Your Dreams. Sorry, Pursuing Your Dreams by releasing the Shackles. And I have an amazing guest here. His name is Michael Buffington. So if you want to unmute yourself, Michael, please do say hello to the lovely community here on this evening. How are you today?
Hey everyone, how's it going? How are you doing, Rosie? Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
It is my honor to have you on, and I am doing okay. I am hanging in there, like I told you right before we got on live. 2021 has been an interesting year. So I will say every guest I have brought on, this year has inspired me in so many ways, and your story is also inspiring. But before we dive into that, I'm going to give the official introduction for you. So this is Michael Buffington Jr. He is a professional concept artist in the video game and entertainment industry. He is a graduate of the Academy of Art University, where he earned his BFA in illustration in 2003. Aside from teaching and lecturing, he works as a freelance illustrator, producing storyboards and concept art for video games, animation, and film. In 2008, Michael worked as the in-house designer and props supervisor on a high-profile CG animated feature film entitled Alpha and Omega. Michael also worked as a designer for Lucasfilm Animation on the third season of the Clone Wars television series, which aired on Cartoon Network. Michael currently works as a full-time college professor and department lead in the School of Game Development at the Academy of Art University, where he built the #1 concept art program in the United States and was #3 in the world in 2019 and #5 in the world in 2020. That's awesome. I didn't know that fact, but I also want to include the fact of how we met. So the tie between us is my niece. I'm gonna give her props, Daphne Domina, because Michael's other talent is that he is a music artist and an amazing one at that. And I've watched him perform, and it was amazing to see you just really illustrate, or not illustrate, but show your art on stage. So, but what now I'm just getting to know you more has truly inspired me. And when we had talked the last time about what this talk would be about, and how many things you've done in your life to truly own your power and be authentic in your truth is what inspires me. So I will let you take it away, Michael, with your story. Go ahead.
I really appreciate that. Very kind words. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you. I think very highly of you, and you inspire me as well. I love your journey. So it's great. There's a lot of synergy and reciprocity. So it's fantastic.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, I'm on that journey too. I mean, I told you this year has been a process of healing for me, which for me too, stepping into my authentic power, being courageous each month to go on live with someone amazing. I'm just thankful and blessed for the opportunity to do it. So, whew. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, what you just said about courage, I think that's really the key to life. There is so much joy and so much peace and so much fulfillment that is within reach of so many people, but they're just not courageous enough to take that step. They're just not courageous enough to take that leap, because oftentimes there's some risk involved. But you're doing it, I'm doing it, and people like us are doing it. And I wish more people would be more willing to take risks, because they could have life-changing results if they would, And I mean, for me, part of that courage came from how I grew up. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. I was born and raised in the Mission District of San Francisco, California, before it was what it is today, which is a nice little froofy, trendy neighborhood full of techies and hipsters and people like that. But when I was growing up, it was a lower class Latino neighborhood. And, my father's Black, my mother's from Nicaragua. And so I just kind of fit in real well in the Mission District. But it was very dangerous. I was surrounded by drugs. I was surrounded by gangs. I was surrounded by, addiction, you name it. Everything that you can imagine dealing with in the hood is what I was faced with dealing with. And, I got caught up in all of that because, you had to survive somehow, And one thing that one thing that being in all of that taught me was how to survive, how to face adversity, how to face things that were scary, and how to have the courage to plow through obstacles, because in many instances your life depended on it. I mean, I've literally had people trying to kill me. I've been shot at on multiple occasions. On one occasion, my cousin was shot right in front of me. And so, I courage was something that you had to have, or otherwise you weren't going to survive. So, I think that was really sort of how I grew up, for better or for worse, was what helped mold me to become the person that I am today. And so I guess that's why we're here talking, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, okay, this is just a little off topic, but what street did you grow up on in the Mission
Um,
District?
I grew up on San Jose Avenue, on San Jose and 29th. So if you're familiar with the city, there's Mitchell's Ice Cream, and then there's a laundromat kitty corner to that. And I grew up in that building right next to the laundromat.
Okay, got it. No, I do know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm born
So
and raised here too. Okay, sorry, I was just curious. I didn't.
Well, I know you know Mitchell's Ice Cream, because Mitchell's Ice Cream was famous for having all of the Filipino flavors. We had the macapuno, ube, lanka, halo halo.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're gonna name. I know. I want some ice cream. Okay,
Right?
I have to put myself back on mute. Go ahead.
So yeah, no, I mean, it was like I said, it's a nice neighborhood now. It wasn't so nice when I was growing up. Um, and being out there made me want something better. My father, he was a fantastic guy, one of the most amazing people you could ever meet when he was sober, but he had an addiction problem. And there was times where he would accomplish great things and then he would fall off the wagon for a couple of years. And, it really caused us to go through a lot of difficult times growing up. I mean, we're talking during the mid to late 80s, early 90s, when the crack epidemic was sort of in full swing, and he sort of got caught up in that. And I can tell you, I remember times coming home and the TV's gone, or I remember getting a paper route because we were so poor. My mother couldn't afford just basics. We would get clothes once a year. I'm sorry, twice a year. We would get clothes just before school, and we might get some clothes at Christmas time, and that was it. And there would be times where I didn't have much. I didn't have food. I didn't have things like that. So I got myself a paper route. This was before I started hustling out in the streets, but I got myself a paper route, and I went and started buying Air Jordans and got myself some starter jackets and hats. And I remember coming home and all my starter jackets and all my hats were gone. He took them and sold them, and, eventually, I found my way into the streets, and I got involved in sort of the drug world. And I've seen a lot of things. And I tell people all the time, if I haven't done it, I've seen it or I've heard about it. But there isn't a whole lot that I haven't experienced in life. And one thing that I remember, I'll never forget this experience. I was out on the block one day, and I seen a woman come down there, disheveled. She had a very ill-fitting dress on, hair was all over the place. And she came down to where all the D-boys sold dope, and she got on her hands and knees, and she began to crawl on the floor and look for anything white, and she would pick it up and smell it and taste it to see if it was some crack, if it was some crumbs. And there was something about that moment, when I saw that, I said, life has got to be better than this. There has got to be something out there better than this, because this ain't it. And so at that point, I really started to think. I was about 17 years old, and I really started to think about my life and where it was headed. Because, if you asked anybody at that time where I was going to end up, people would say I was more likely to end up in a grave or in a jail cell than in college. But I decided that I wanted something more for myself, and when I was 17, I found my way into Bible study, and that's a whole story in and of itself. And that kind of helped me sort of gain a moral compass, if you will, because there were a lot of things that I used to do in the streets just out of survival, just out of being, in survival mode all the time, that I realized weren't okay. you know? And so I started to leave that life behind me. And then of course, you know, I was kind of a rolling stone. So by the time I was 19, I had a daughter. Okay, so what she did and what all those experiences did was it made me really want to work for something so I could provide for my daughter, so I could provide for my family, so I could be the best version of myself. And I wasn't going to allow my background to ground me or my hangups to hang me up. I said, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to make it or I'm going to die trying. Because if I don't, I'm probably going to die out here in the streets. And many people that I grew up with did, you know? And so that's what I did. And you know, I found my way into school, but the way that I chose to go to school was very interesting because I had a lot of well-meaning family members, you know, asking me at the time, so what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to be? You know, what's your career going to be? And you know, in my mind, you know, I thought, well, why not do something I love? You know, and so I had always loved art and music. You know, my mother, she had wanted to be an artist and she had like a little art kit that she brought out when I was about 4 years old, and she taught me how to draw a gorilla, right? And ever since then I was hooked. She told me that when I was little, she would sit me down with crayons and pencils and a stack of paper, and I would entertain myself for hours. And my father was a funk musician back in the 70s. And I mean, I grew up with music around me all the time. I was surrounded by music. So it was something that I was just born around the influences of music and art. And it was something that I enjoyed. And so I thought, you know, as I'm, you know, now in my late teens and I'm trying to make some decisions about my life, I thought, hey, why not do this? But a lot of well-meaning people told me, you know what, that's cool and everything. Maybe you can do that as a hobby, but that's not realistic. You'll never, ever be able to support a family like that. You know, you have responsibilities now. You need to be a responsible person and you need stability. And I swear I heard that word stability so much that I got to a point where when people said it to me, I would want to slap them because it was just so irritating to me because I was like, what does that even mean? You know, show up to a crummy job every day, sit under fluorescent lights in a small cubicle and take abuse from some douchebag boss who's going through a divorce with his wife. Like, it just didn't seem appealing to me what they were considering to be stability. And I remember telling people that, hey, you know, I watch a lot of movies and cartoons and read comic books and I play video games and I listen to music, and those things aren't made for free. So how do they do that? How do they do that? You know, and you know, but people were getting to me, and so I started thinking, you know, maybe I need to find something to do, like a career, you know, and my mother actually gave me the best piece of advice that I had ever gotten to that point. And I was sitting down one day and she seen me and I looked a little bit, you know, sort of depressed or discouraged. And she said, "What's wrong?" And, you know, I said, you know, I'm frustrated. I'm confused. I don't know what I want to do. I know what I like, but it doesn't seem like that's going to give me, you know, the stability that I was repeating those words, right? That people are talking about. And I don't know what to do. I just don't want to be a failure at life. And my mother said, you can only be a failure at life if you're not happy. When she said that, I had this epiphany moment and I realized that at the end of the day, the only person who has to look themselves in the mirror and answer to themselves for their choices is you. It's me, right? So I had to get up and I had to look at myself every day and answer to myself for the choices that I was going to make in life. And so if I was going to have to do that, then I was going to have to make some choices that I could be happy with, that I could be at peace with, because I didn't want to live life full of regrets, right? And when I had heard about people going to art school or pursuing music, I got a little jealous inside because I was like, man, I could do that, you know? And so, you know, after I went to audio engineering school, which is where I began sort of my musical journey. And I learned, you know, everything that audio engineers learn and about production and things like that. And eventually that led me to meeting up with your wonderful, amazing niece, Daphne Domina, who's been a blessing to my life and a very good friend, by the way. After I was done with that, I was having to make a decision. Am I going to pursue this further, or am I going to do something else? And the art was pulling at me. You know, it was pulling at me, it was calling me. And so, you know, my father, you know, he had gotten cleaned up. He was just one of his moments where he was doing pretty well for himself. And he said, hey, why don't you check out that art school downtown? And so I said, okay. And so I walked in there, and eventually I ended up going to school there. And I got out of school, and, you know, at that point, it was really hard to find a job for a couple of reasons, but I didn't care. I had set my foot on this path. I was going to finish the journey, or I was going to die trying. And so I went forward in that path, and eventually I ended up working for video game companies like Activision. I ended up working in Hollywood on feature films. And probably the thing that people will, the most notable thing that I worked on, which is what you mentioned earlier, is I ended up working for Lucasfilm Animation on season 3 of the Clone Wars. And that was something that I had dreamed about since 1997, working for George Lucas on Star Wars, and it actually happened. And, you know, I think that's the thing though. What drove me was that I was always a dreamer. My father was a dreamer. He always had big dreams, big goals, big dreams. His problem was that he could never stay clean long enough to really fulfill his dreams and really reach his full potential. If he had just had a cleaner shot at life, you know, he would have been okay. And that's why, you know, I made the decision as a teenager, no alcohol, no drugs, nothing. I'm going full steam ahead, clean and sober with a clear mind. And, you know, that was one of the best decisions that I could have made, because I think with a clear head and a clear mind, I was able to make choices that led me down a path to eventually get to where I got. And I'm not judging people who do that. That was for me. That was what I felt was best for me. Growing up with an alcoholic, drug addicted father, I said, I don't want anything to do with that. And I don't regret those choices, because I feel like those choices helped me get to the point where I did as fast as I did. You know, but my father had his dreams crushed a lot by a lot of people. And I believe that's part of the reason why he drowned out his pain in alcohol and drugs, because he was often hurt, you know, and I refused to let other people do the same thing to me. And so I decided I'm going to set big dreams. I'm going to set big goals. In fact, I'm going to set goals so big that it pisses normal, lame people off. And that's what I do. I do that all the time. I piss people off because I say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they think I'm obnoxious, but you know what? Then I go do it. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, that's kind of, I think, how I got to where I got to in life.
So beautiful stuff. I want you to repeat one more time. What did your mom say about life and failure? I don't want to quote it incorrectly. I think it's something.
My mom said, you can only be I said, I don't want to be a failure at life. And my mom said, you can only be a failure at life if you're not happy.
Okay, I'm typing that down on this chat here. I mean, Una is on this call too. She said, oh my God, yes. And preach to your story.
That's amazing.
What challenges have you faced in your journey, and how have you overcome them? If you can give one or two examples of something you personally faced, where I know you mentioned stability was one factor. People told you that this is what you should do to be stable, and I can personally relate to that.
Sure.
Give me another example of something that had happened with maybe with friends, close colleagues, that you knew in that moment there was a challenge there, but you knew in that moment that you weren't clearly pursuing your dreams, and you may have been living someone else's dreams. Is that too complex of a question?
No, not at all. I mean, I think, you know, there were a lot of challenges and obstacles that I went through. But, you know, I had experiences with really bad jobs that very early made it very clear to me that I wasn't built to do some crummy job for 30 years in the hopes of getting some pension and then living my retirement years out. You know, I don't know. I don't know why people do that. I don't know why. I mean, hey, whatever. Different strokes, different folks. I'm just not wired like that. I'm not that guy. You know what I'm saying? And you know, but what, you know, after I got out of school, I was married to a woman that was very unsupportive of my dreams. It's not easy making a living as an artist, and it certainly isn't easy making a living as a Black artist. Now, today we are told that Black lives matter, allegedly, but back then it was a bit different, you know. And even living in the liberal mecca of San Francisco, you know, I felt the difference being a Black artist in a white world. Okay. So it was very difficult for me to get some of the same opportunities that other people had. My father told me when I was about 12 years old, I remember him going to a basketball game of mine and I missed all my free throws, right? So he took me to the park the next day and he made me sit there and shoot free throws over and over and over while he sat against the wall and drank his beer, you know. And I was pissed because I was like, oh, you want to come over here and be super dad now and make me go over here and shoot free throws? You've never been to a damn game all season. I was just mad. I was frustrated. I was like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. And I kept, you know, I kept missing. And finally, he goes, no, I want you to shoot 50 more. And I lost my mind momentarily. My father was 6'2", 250 pounds. He was a very big man. Okay. And he was not the type of person that you wanted to disrespect, because he would take his belt off in a heartbeat and let you have it, right? I grew up with one of those old school dads, right? And I lost my mind for a second and I said, no. And I slammed the basketball on the ground. And then like within an instant, all my sanity came back and I realized that I was gonna die, right? And my father got up and he walked towards me and he got in my face. And I thought, oh, here we go. I'm gonna die right now. 12 years old. That's it for me. It was a good run, right? And he puts his finger in my chest and he goes, you don't understand. You're Black. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, that's not news. He goes, you're Black. He goes, you have to work twice as hard just to get the same opportunities. You'll figure that out one day. And then he didn't beat me. He didn't spank me, nothing. He turned around and he walked away and he left the park. And I was sitting there feeling really confused. I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me. And I didn't understand why I didn't get the daylights beat out of me. And it was because he was I think he himself was trying to live vicariously through me, because he had been stopped from reaching his full potential many times, even though he was very gifted. My father was a very interesting guy. He was highly intelligent, had a super high level of emotional intelligence. He was so charming. He could get people, I mean, it didn't matter, you know, if he was Black or not, he could oftentimes get people to support him, you know, in his endeavors, because he was just, you know, a wonderful guy. He knew how to just get, you know, people, you know, become endeared to people. And, but despite that, because he was Black, he still had a lot of struggles, and he didn't go as far and as fast as he probably would have if he were not. And so that was very painful to him. And he was trying to show me that at 12 years old, and I just didn't get it, you know? But when I got out into the industry and I thought, hey man, you know, I was one of the top 3 draftsmen in my class. I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna kick butt, take names. I'm gonna take the world by storm as an artist. Everybody's gonna know who Michael Buffington Jr. is, right? And then I found out, oh, I understand what he means now. Because I would see, you know, little Johnny and little Bobby and little Jake, you know, get certain positions that didn't have half the talent that I did. And when it was time for layoffs, guess who was one of the first ones to go? You know, and I seen all that, and I didn't get a fair shot up here in the liberal mecca of San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area, at these video game companies. It was, unfortunately, I was like a drop of chocolate in a sea of vanilla, and it just wasn't cool. you know?
Mm.
And so because I had so many struggles getting work, being stable in terms of consistent work in studios and things like that, my ex-wife began to really not support what I was doing and my dreams. And I remember she told me one time, she literally said, "I hate what you do for a living." And I told her, I said, "Well, you know what? Um, you're going to have to deal with art as my mistress for the rest of your life if you want to stay here, because you can go, but art will always be with me."
Mm.
And you know what? There's a reason why she's my ex-wife. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't have that type of negativity, and I couldn't have that type of unsupportive person in my life, because it was like trying to walk up a mountain with a 50-ton boulder on your back, being married to somebody like that. And so I was like, she has to go, you know? And so we eventually went our separate ways. I struggled for a long time, and I ended up meeting a man by the name of Conrad Montgomery, who is now the vice president of animation at Nickelodeon. Him and I are very good friends. Okay. But at the time, he was an exec at Disney, and me and him and I met. He saw my work and just was in love with my work. And he goes, "Man," he goes, you're so talented. You know, you should be doing this and doing that, doing this and doing that. And you know, I said, "Man, thank you so much." And we talked, we stayed in touch for a while. Finally, one day he said to me, he said, "You know, Michael," he goes, "I can do a lot more for you if you come down to LA." He says, "There are a lot more of us down here in LA, and we have a Black power base that supports each other. Anytime we see a young, talented Black person, we take them in, you know?" And I was like, And so I talked it over with my wife, my current wife. And you know, I said, I don't know what to do. I mean, you know, my son at the time was like maybe 2 years old. And I said, you know, you don't want to leave. You don't want to come down to LA. I don't want to leave you guys, but I feel like this man is offering me a shot. And she said, you know, do it. And so I packed my car with everything that I could fit. And I went down to LA. I went down to LA, had no plan. I had no money, just enough to get by. And I couch surfed for a while, and then I spent a couple weeks basically homeless. I was sleeping in the back seat of my car, and at one point when I ran out of money, I would just get like a gallon of water and a loaf of bread from the store, and just every time I would get hungry, I'd eat like 2 pieces of bread and drink some water, just to try and make it, you know, through the day, because I didn't have money for food. Um, and I finally got a job at working at a studio, and they didn't know that I was homeless. And so I would sleep in the parking lot, way off in the corner of the parking lot where nobody could see. And I would get up at like 6:30 in the morning and then go and shave, shower, wash up, you know, comb my hair. And I would go in there ready to work. Nobody knew that I was sleeping in my car, you know, but I was, you know, I was about that grind, you know, and I was going to make it because I'm a dog. I'm born and raised in the streets. I've survived way worse than that. I was like, yo, I can do this, you know? And eventually I saved up enough money to get a room somewhere. So I got out of my car. So that was great. And within 4 months of being down in LA, I was on a feature film. So, you know, it was rough, but I took that risk and I did something that most people would not have done. And you know, it worked out, because that one experience right there changed the trajectory of my professional life. And that's how I ended up getting other positions. And eventually that's how I ended up at Lucas.
Wow. Okay. Had no idea about this part of your story at all. And I mean, I do want to acknowledge, you know, especially with what's been going on the last couple of years for people of color. I mean, so am I. I mean, we all experience that there's some kind of uneven hierarchy. So I can say I can relate to that.
Yep.
But for someone like you, and you know where you come from, in terms of like come from San Francisco, culturally where you're from, the things that you've been through, the things that you have seen, I'm just even in more of awe of you of how much you truly sacrificed. It's like you completely, really, literally had nothing to open up this big opportunity for you, and you took the chance to do it. So going back to the word courageous, what being courageous means, you can't plan it. I mean, I'm a freaking planner to the
Right.
T, and I'm realizing in my journey right now, I can't do that to open these bigger, possibilities that are there. So I'm just like, my heart is very open right now hearing your story, because sometimes it takes that much to do, and it's a scary thing. What would you tell someone, I mean, if you were to give a couple of tips, I don't even know, tips, advice, recommendations to someone who really wants to pursue their dream and whatever it is, whether it's becoming an artist, a dancer, I mean, I don't know, the possibilities, I mean, the choices are endless. But how would you talk to someone who is like, I know I'm meant for something more? And I could be talking about myself right now. So I mean, this part, I mean, I'll be transparent. There's part of it with me too. I mean, this is part of my journey right now to the community. I mean, I'm, as much as, I put myself out there and I do these things, I'm scared shitless. Excuse my language,
Sure.
but it's scary to share your story. And I find myself in this constant like conundrum of like, do I share this? What will people think? But I know I should share it. So I'm just saying that's partially me asking, but for people who also experience these feelings, like I know I'm meant to do something more, and I
Sure.
do not know how to get out and do it because someone told me this, or even the stability thing. I can totally relate to that firsthand, of being raised with, this is what stability looks like. So if you don't follow this, then you're not going to be successful. And still, I know it's not true, but it's a story I'm still fighting to get out of. So take it away. How would you tell someone to
You
do
know, I always tell people, I always ask people, what would you do if money were no concern? And a lot of people say, well, I would be an artist like you, or, I would, be a dancer, maybe like Una, right? Or I do this or that, or, a lot of times people have these big, wild dreams, right? Now I would pursue acting, and then I say, okay, do that. Oh, well, I mean, okay, yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. I see what you did there. But, I mean, there's not, I need to be able to support myself, and I need insurance. Oh my gosh, I need health insurance. I need this, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, no. So you're willing to sacrifice pursuing what you were meant to do in life, what you were born to do, what gives you the most joy and gives you the most peace and the most fulfillment, so that you could have medical insurance? Like, come on, bro. Like, really? Is that what you want to do? There's a reason why people, they get up and they hate Mondays, and then they can't wait for Fridays. If that's your life, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Okay. My Mondays are dope because I get up and I do exactly what the hell I want to do in life. And that's, I draw for a living. My life is dope, and I do dope things, and I don't complain about whether it's Monday, Friday, Sunday, or whatever, because I do exactly what the heck I want to do. And so I tell people, look, your ceiling for happiness, for peace, for fulfillment is going to be a lot lower by taking the safe route, right? Will Smith, he said, taking the safe route is the surest way to mediocrity. And he was absolutely right. I wasn't made to be regular. I was not made to be mediocre. I was not made to be average. I was born to be exceptional. And I'm planning on making sure that I live up to my fullest potential, that whenever that time comes, people will know who the heck Michael Buffington Jr. was, because I'm no joke. I'm going after my dreams. I'm dreaming big. I'm thinking big. I'm making big goals, and I'm going after them. And I don't care what anybody says. And if I fail, there will be a lot of people that will wag their fingers. There will be a lot of people who will gloat, who will say, I told you so. There will be a lot of people who will laugh. And I don't give a damn, because I'm going to get up, I'm going to wipe the dust off, and I'm going to try it again. That is how I'm wired. I'm a dog. Like I said, I could have died in the streets on so many occasions. Whenever I have a birthday, I laugh. You know why? Because I feel like I've cheated death for another year. I should have been dead 20 something years ago. And here I am living life, owning houses, doing all this cool stuff that people do, making money. I get my checks and sometimes I feel like I'm stealing. You know why? Because here's what I tell people. If you follow your dreams, the money will come. At some point, you're going to get good enough at what you do that somebody somewhere will pay you some money to do exactly what you're doing. It may take a little while, but you will get there. And I am case in point. You see what I'm saying? So I tell people, what's the holdup? What's stopping you? And typically it's fear. And you know what it is? It's fear of the unknown. And what I tell people, you know what? You can live your life like that, but fear will keep you stagnant for your entire life, and you will live a dwarfed experience, and you will never fulfill your potential. Because here's the thing, a fish trying to climb a tree is not going to be very happy or very successful. A monkey trying to swim is not going to be very happy or very successful. The monkey needs to be in a tree and the fish needs to be in the water. And then you're going to be having a happy monkey swinging all over the branches, eating bananas, having a great time. The fish is going to be swimming, saying hello to the other fish, eating algae, and doing all the things that fish do, right? And being very happy. But you have to be doing the things that you were made to do in order to live up to that fullest potential, because your ceiling for success is going to be a lot higher if you go after what you really know that you're meant to do in life. You know, there's all sorts of reasons why people don't do what they're meant to do in life, and most of them are really silly. You know, most of them are really just silly. You know, and you know, to me, courage is when you can't see over the crest of the hill, but you go forward anyway, because you know that there is a possibility on the other side of that hill. There is something that will fulfill you and give you exactly what you wanted in life. See, why do people consider some people great? Because typically, in order to achieve that greatness, it required some level of risk that most people are unwilling to take. And so people are so in awe of these people who do these great things because they took these risks and they accomplished these great things. And people are like, wow, tell me more. And then they tell them how they did it. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to do that. You have to be willing to take some risk, because with great risk, there's the possibility of great reward. Michelangelo said, the problem is not that we aim for the stars and miss. The problem is that we aim low and hit the target. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not interested in aiming low. I'm interested in aiming very high, obnoxiously high, taking all the shots. And until the arrows are all out of my quiver, I'm going to keep taking shots. You know, and as long as you get up every day and you're healthy and you're living and you're breathing, you've got more arrows in your quiver. And so I keep telling people, pursue your dreams. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what people say. Doesn't matter if people say you're stupid, you're dumb, if they laugh at you. As a matter of fact, you might have to, you know, eliminate certain people out of your life, because sometimes it's addition by subtraction. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Surround yourself with dreamers. Surround yourself with people who will support you, so you can have this reciprocal sort of love and support going on in the environment that you put yourself in. And then just go forward with gusto. Because you know what? I would rather fail trying to pursue my dream than be successful doing something else, pursuing somebody else's dream. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's just, you know, that's what I tell people, you know, all the time. You know, fear is dangerous, because fear leads to a lot of misery. When I see a lot of depressed people and people who struggle with feeling unfulfilled in life, I believe that oftentimes in many cases, and not in all cases, and I'm not trying to be a therapist here because I'm not, but I do believe that in many cases people are feeling depressed because, you know, even when they're making a lot of money, sometimes, you know, you making a lot of money as a doctor is cool, but you didn't do what you really wanted to do in life, and that was be an artist. And you know what? I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I think that I could have been anything that I wanted to be in life. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this quick story. When I was in freshman year, I was taking an algebra class, and I didn't have a lot of support at home. Obviously, like what my life was like. My home was real rough, and I didn't have a lot of support at home. And I would take these algebra tests, and I would sit there and look at the problems, and I was so smart that I could figure out the answer to the problems without knowing the formulas because I hadn't studied. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I would sit there and create my own computations to figure out the problems to the formulas. And I got accused of cheating by this very not nice lady, and who I believe was a bit racist, to be honest with you, but that's neither here nor there. And she said, "You're cheating." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because your answers are correct, but I don't see any of your formulas." And I said, "I did my own formula." And she goes, "How do you do your own formula?" I said, "I do it." And she goes, "Well, what's the formula?" I said, "I don't know. I just look at the problem and I sit there and crunch numbers until I can figure it out." And she goes, "I don't believe you." And I said, "Well, whatever." And so she hands me a piece of paper with a problem on it. She goes, "Do it." So I sat there, and it took me 5 minutes, and then I figured out the answer and I handed it back to her. Instead of saying, "This is incredible. I have never seen this in all my years of teaching," she looks at it and she goes, "This is correct." And I was like, and she just goes, "You can leave." So I got a B. I got a B that semester. The next semester, she made half the points of the test that you did the exact formula. So half the points for the test was that you did the formula and then you got the answer right. So me going in there doing the same thing that I was doing, I was flunking all the tests. I got a D. I had to go to summer school and take algebra over. She did that specifically for me. So instead of celebrating the fact that here's this kid who was so smart that he could figure out the answers to the problem without knowing the formulas, and after I got my D, which she gave to me with glee, you know what she said to me? She said, "At the beginning of the school year, I had everybody in this class take a math aptitude test. And the cutoff limit for going into honors algebra was a 36. You scored a 35. I had thought about putting you in the honors algebra class. I'm glad I didn't." That's what she said to me, you know? So, I'm not a dumb guy, but I do realize that, even though I could have been, a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist or whatever it is that engineer or whatever, that stuff didn't make me happy. I didn't enjoy math. You know what I enjoyed? Drawing superheroes. And guess what I do for a living now? So
yeah. I mean, you draw superheroes. If anyone hasn't checked them out, his Instagram, it's on here. It's Drawaholic. I like that. 1124. Check it out. He's actually very, very skilled. If you haven't seen his page already, but I know a lot of what you're sharing, with your story, I can, resonate a lot. I mean, with teachers telling me I wouldn't amount to anything, or ask me that question, like, "What's wrong with you?"
Right.
Those things that, could possibly shame us for life. And you can believe that.
Right.
I mean, you did mention a few times, and for anyone who is listening, whether you're watching live or you're catching the replay, to pursue your dreams too, there are challenges, and you mentioned it a few times. There are challenges that you have to go through to get there.
Yeah.
But what you have gained is by far an amazing, just 180, probably not even a 180, but just even beyond the universe of what you've ever dreamed. And here you are in 2021, doing what you love and inspiring others along the process. Like you're a teacher, you're a professor. And I think it's one of the most rewarding jobs, it is to be a teacher, to give back, to educate students, to support students in their process while they learn, so that they can be inspired by you to move forward. And I think that's an amazing, I give props to all teachers in any context. to be a teacher or a mentor to someone in that way is an amazing gift, because you give something, you have the opportunity to instill light. You could do it both ways. You could instill darkness, you can instill something very negative or something very positive. But for you, with all of your experiences, I know that you inspire your students and you push them in a very good way to move in that direction.
It's funny that you say that you use that word inspire, because I've often told other people, and I've told my wife, I said, I'm a master draftsman. I'm a world-class draftsman. And some people might think that's what you were born to do. I'm a very high-level musician. I'm producing music for some pretty big names at this point, which will be out sometime very soon, hopefully. And I'm doing all these things. So people say, well, that's what you were meant to do. But really what I realize is that more than anything, I believe that what I was put here on this earth to do was to inspire others. That seems to be my calling more than anything. And the art and the music and all these different things that I do was just a vehicle and a means by which I could reach other people.
Beautifully said. Damn. You're inspiring me on this day. So I feel like I just went to church, and I haven't been to church in a long time. The Michael Church right here. The God. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I said it live. Like, I'm currently going through my own transition right now. So it's a very, I'm going through, I feel like the struggles you've mentioned in this talk is what I'm currently going through to get to the next step or where I need to go. So I hear it, and I'm really inspired and again in awe of you and how far you've come, and just living each and every day, doing the thing that you love, speaking your authentic truth, and just being you. What I realized, like, I wanted to say two things. Was one is, people will always say something, even if it's good or bad. They will always find a reason, usually when they put you down. If you're doing something, good or inspiring, it's because of something within themselves. So I always acknowledge that, right? It's not necessarily about you. Another thing I wanted to say just about the unknown. I mean, I tell my friends, I tell my clients this: the unknown is what you make it to be.
Right.
And that's the beauty in the unknown. You stay where you are and you stay in this fear. I always use the analogy of putting your hand on the hot stove. That's what you're doing. So why continue doing that to yourself? Maybe because you're comfortable. I mean, again, you can choose what you want. The perspective of what's good or bad is essentially up to the individual.
Right.
But if you find yourself constantly tired, fatigued, not loving what you do, try the unknown. You have really nothing to lose. There is nothing you can lose. You can always go back to where you were.
Sure.
If you try it, sure. I mean, there's many ways you can approach it. But if you know that the unknown is what you make it to be, then why not try it? Because you can make it essentially into something that fills you, like you use the words joy, feel harmony, happy, whatever that is for you. So, Michael, thank you for sharing your story. It's well needed for me personally. So thank you so much. What do you have coming up? Are there any events in your realms of the work that you do that you want to share with everyone?
Yeah. I have a lot of big things coming up. I am always working. I am always busy. I have big, obnoxious goals, and I'm always moving toward accomplishing those goals. So I actually have a lot of music that I'm going to be dropping soon. And people will be able to find that under the Vagabond Lover name. But on the art side, which is really what I'm excited about, I have a lot of things happening. I just released a book called Boom Volume 2 by Michael Buffington Jr. You can find it as a digital PDF on a website called Gumroad. If you go to my my Instagram, in the link tree, you'll be able to find at the top the link to that book if you're interested in purchasing it. I'm going to release all of my previous books, which I've released about 6 books to this point. I'm going to be releasing them all digitally. And then I have 2 more books that I'm going to be releasing. So I've been very, very busy. I also, even more important, is I have started my own sort of art program. It's a fundamental art skill building program called Grind Before Glory. You can find it at www.grindbeforeglory.com. And there's a very good reason why that name is what it is. What we're doing with Grind Before Glory is a couple of things. We're not necessarily trying to compete with colleges and universities. What we're trying to do is train people prior to getting to college and university if they choose to go that route, because oftentimes, unfortunately, colleges and universities are more concerned with retention than they are with teaching fundamental skills. And so they make everything so easy and such a cakewalk that people sort of glide through school for the first couple of years and then end up in the third and fourth year when they should be working on building skills for their portfolio, and they're not good enough. And so hopefully with this, we can catch people prior to that. Or if people go through a college experience and don't have the skills to compete at the professional level, then they can come check us out. So that's www.grindbeforeglory.com. Super excited about that. We also have a YouTube channel, Grind Before Glory. It's GBG Art Bootcamp on YouTube, and I'm dropping videos there, a bunch of art instructional videos, being my goofy self. And I just got hip to something very cool. I just discovered this app called TikTok, and 5 days ago, I started this TikTok at the recommendation of one of my students, Jordan Foster, former students. He's my protege. And I called my niece up and I said, hey, do you know how to do this TikTok thing? You got a TikTok, right? And she was like, yeah. I said, how do you work this? And so she told me, and within 5 days of posting just art videos on there, I have almost 1,400 followers, and one of the videos has gone viral. It has 19,000 views on it within 5 days of being on TikTok. It's awesome. Super excited. Wow. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on. So
that's cool. No, thank you for sharing all that. That's right. You mentioned to me before about the school, and yeah. I found that's really amazing that you're putting that's out there for people to just get on that opportunity. So wow, Michael, thank you so much. I'm just like every month I'm just like, if I had like an emoji or a GIF, it'd be like going back and just kind of flailing on the couch, because every guest I've had, honestly, since I started this talk last year, everyone has been truly amazing. You are amazing. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to speak tonight, to share your story and how far you've come. You know, for people who are watching again live, thank you so much. Or if you're watching the replay, thank you for tuning in. Michael has a very amazing story, and there are many ways to get a hold of him on social media and for his work. So please reach out to him if you have any questions. But until next time, man, October is a very interesting month with Halloween coming up, but I'm going to give myself a shout out. It's my birthday on Sunday. Woo!
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you. Yes, going around the sun again. Yeah, it's coming up. So October, there's many things to celebrate, including you being here with me tonight. So thank you, Michael, so much. I have so much love coming out to you. Thank you. But until next time, to the community of Facebook, take care, and I'll see you again next month. Bye, everyone.